Origin Jazz Home Rex, and this is Blues Dumb History Tales Part 2. Well, the channel will Sarcastic production. Yeah. This is awesome. I reacted to the first one, Blues Dumb History Tales 1 or something. And that was awesome, obviously. His thing is more of a history thing, I guess. While Red is the one who does all the mythological stuff, all the fantasy thing and everything. So yeah, it's always fun to see that some real event that happened that is like mythological or fantasy type of thing. That's just ridiculous because nobody would believe it. But it actually happened because it's history. So I don't know why that's even more fun to watch something like that. So I'll load that video. This is the second part. I hope he continues this series because this is really fun. And I guess these videos get more views than any other of his videos. This is near 1 million. I think the first video already got more than 1 million. So yeah. Remember people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe, check out the reaction, this is a link in the description, check out the cards, playlist, check out the end cards, and yeah, let's do this one.
Earlier last year, I found myself with a surprise gap in my upload schedule, so I did what any self-respecting online content creator would do. I panicked, hastily cobbled together a glorified meme dump, and then watched in shock as it became one of my most popular videos of the year. I'd say the internet is a
I don't understand that. How was that hastily done? I mean, that was still good video, man. It felt like just any of his video that he does, I guess. But it was really fun because he found the story that was really funny.
Mistress, but I know damn well that you're all just here for the memes, and I'm honestly an idiot for not realizing it sooner. So, I have scoured far and wide, but mostly the Mediterranean, to bring you 4 more of the finest in historical shitposts. I would apologize for how safe I'm playing it by sticking to my usual historical stomping grounds, but I've been sick like all week, and I am way too hopped up on cold meds to have any capacity for new research, self-awareness, or remorse. So let's do some memes. Number 4. History can be weird about people's bones. You'd think that people tend to sit still once they die, but sometimes corpses and bones become prolific travelers. Machiavelli is buried somewhere in this church, but we have no idea where. The body of Alexander the Great up and
with the modern tools, I guess sonar and whatever, I don't know, can't we find where the bones are? Is that very hard now? Come on.
Disappeared a couple centuries after he died, and Hernan Cortez was buried and exhumed 9 times, ferried across the Atlantic Ocean, and casually misplaced for a century. But one instance of bone shuffling that always amuses me is the story of Dante Alighieri. Dante had a complicated relationship with his hometown of Florence, being that he really liked it, but he just wished that it wasn't so full of assholes who exiled him. So after Dante died in the city of Ravenna, Florence realized that he was actually a pretty popular poet, so they asked for his body back in 1396 and again in 1429, but Ravenna said, "Buzz off, you exiled him, he's ours." Eventually, a Florentine from the Medici family I wasn't lying about being sick. Oh god, that hurts. Oh, delicious tea. Jesus. Okay. Eventually, a Florentine from the Medici family became pope and organized, i.e. demanded, for Dante to be returned to Florence so Michelangelo could build a mausoleum for him. Ravenna's hands were tied because, it's the pope, so they agreed and gave Florence the casket. Now, it's not exactly polite to go throw...
Yeah, that is really asshole, this isn't it? I mean, first of all, you exiled him. Now, after he's dead, you're like, oh, look at that, he's famous. I guess we could, get some of his fame. I guess we're gonna create, whatever, his tomb or whatever. And people are gonna come and see, oh, look at that, that's Dante's tomb or whatever. Dante, hey, famous poet. Dante, who wasn't in Florence when he died because we exiled him.
Throwing open the sealed sarcophagus of your beloved native poet, but some Florentines in the delegation to Ravenna were a little suspicious. So they casually yanked open the tomb to find nothing. Whoops. Yeah, so the Franciscan monks pulled a little sneaky on them by stealthing Dante's bones out of the sarcophagus and into a hiding spot in their monastery. But Florence was in the awkward position where they couldn't call out Ravenna for hoodwinking them without admitting to opening a sealed sarcophagus. So Florence just called it a day, pretended like nothing happened, and went home. And so lay the greatest poet in Italian history, packed up into a tiny box and hidden behind a wall like he was a secret stash of Christmas presents. Jeez, that's actually pretty morbid. Eventually, he did get moved into a shiny...
Okay, I don't understand this. I mean, look, Florence was trying to get his body and create, whatever, mausoleum, tomb, whatever, just to get, more, I guess, pristine to the place. Like, look at that, that's our local guy who was great poet. Here you go. You can see his tomb or whatever. I guess good for visitors or whatever. I understand that. Why would Ravenna take his bones? I mean, first of all, if they're just going to take his bones and obviously give away the, I guess, tomb or whatever to Florence, then officially in the eyes of people, they're giving Dante's body to Florence. So Ravenna can't get the people, visitors, whatever, to see like here's Dante's body. They can't do that anymore. So what's his bones benefit them or whatever? That just feels weird. I mean, the guy's dead. His dead body, why does that matter to you now? What does that add value to you? I understand that, like I said, if you create a tomb, people come to visit, but you officially gave to Florence and now you unofficially hid them somewhere. So nobody knows it besides you. So what's the point of just taking bones? How is that going to help you? I don't understand that. And obviously, Florence just got the tomb or whatever. They don't have to admit anything. They could just say, here's Dante's body. There you go. But yeah, they can't just say, okay, we break open this tomb to see it. That breaks the law. That they're like, man, we are really screwed. But you know what? Ravenna took a big chance here, because what if they had disclosed that to Pope, because they have some good relations with Pope or whatever? They could overlook the breaking open the tomb thing. And now Pope is angry, like, why did you take the bones? For what? Just to hide the bones somewhere? How is that going to help them and risk angering the Pope? I don't know.
Tiny new mausoleum, but only some 300 years later. In the end, safe to say that Dante would have been all for Ravenna's reverse skeleton heist. It sure embarrassed the hell out of Florence, so yeah. I say mission accomplished. Number 3. Alexander the Rad
I guess that could have been something like that. Like Dante could have, in the end, would have said to, people in Ravenna, like, do not give my body back to Florence or something. So that's why they did that. Who the hell knows?
By most accounts, pretty good at stabbing people with spears.
Yeah.
After thoroughly beating the pants off the Persian Empire and becoming the most powerful man in history at the age of 26, Alexander saw absolutely zero reasons to stop. So he kept on pushing east and east and east and founded over 20 different cities named Alexandria across the former Persian Empire. Part of me thinks that this is just empty vanity, but the other part of me that's a complete slave to aesthetics recognizes that this is some A-tier branding. Eventually, Alexander the Alexander
So he was like Trump of his time, right? I want my name everywhere. Alexandria and every building, on top of every building in gold. Alexandria.
To the Indus Valley and thought, well, this will make a fine addition to my collection. So he fought the Battle of the Hydaspes River in 326 and won. Come on, this is Alexander the plot armor after all. What did you think was going to happen? If you're Alexander the Cool King, then this is great news. But if you're one of the 40,000 soldiers in his army, you might rightly be feeling a little worn out after 5 straight years of war. So when the Macedonians approached the Hephaestus River, his soldiers had...
I don't understand that. 5 years of constant war and constant moving. What does that even mean? I mean, imagine your life's past 5 years. Imagine that. Now imagine being at constant war, just walking away from your home more and more, just taking more territory. Alright, we took that place. Now what? I guess we take another place. Alright, now what? Another place, another place, another place. We reached India. Now what? Obviously, we'll take another place. When is this going to stop, man? When can we go back home?
Enough, and I can see why. They'd basically journeyed 3,000 miles off the end of all of their maps, so they told
3,000 miles. It's not just a journey. 3,000 miles doing wars and taking places. And they did that in 5. Okay, first of all, they did that in 5 years. That's impressive. Because they didn't just take the journey. They, like I said, did wars and shit and took over places.
Alexander, like hell are we gonna cross that river? We'll fall off. Excuse me? Fall off what? Did we stutter, Alex? The world. If we cross that river, we will fall off the world. So, Alexander, the not yet aware of how globes work,
if we later discover that we could have kept going because the world is actually spherical or some nonsense, I swear to Zeus.
read the room and called off the campaign, marking the first and the last time that he ever showed as much as an ounce of restraint in his entire life. And then he died of alcohol poisoning a year later.
Man. Okay, first of all, I thought they knew that there are places behind that river, like India is there. Because in one of that Alexander speech video that I did the reaction to, in that he talks about that, like, you were so scared to pass the river, otherwise I would have gone on. So I guess Alexander knew that there is still places behind that, but his army was scared, or maybe there was just an excuse his army was using just because they wanted to go home or something like that. But fall of the earth, really? Damn. And seriously, he died with alcohol poisoning a year later. This just makes me think, like, this is one of those things, when somebody conquers places, it's one thing to just beat somebody in the war and taking places. But sustaining a place, governing that place, keeping that place, it's not just so easy, I guess. It's easy to just fight war and take all places, but maintaining that's not a joke. So after he died, I guess his empire fall apart in a way, because obviously he was badass, but he didn't thought about governing long term even after he's dead. But another thing is, after he done conquering places and they went back, like, okay, we are not going ahead anymore. I guess after that, in a year he died. So I guess he was one of those cases where he has to move on and conquer places. Otherwise, I guess he just like, I'm not conquering anymore, something like that, and gave into alcohol or something, and then die because of alcohol poisoning. So I know Alexander the Great, he was great. But seriously, if he had just, kept the places that he, I guess, conquered, governed them for 10 or so years, he would have felt more of the Alexander the Great to me. But he was just case of one of those things that he was badass warrior. He just took places, couldn't took anymore. And that was whole thing for him. That was his life. When it stopped, he died because of alcohol poisoning a year later. His empire fell apart. That just feels really bad. And Alexander the Great was awesome. Imagine if he had sustained his empire for 10 or 20 years and he lived for that. By now in the history, he would have been even more bigger, I guess.
Number 2. This next story is a tale as old as imperialism, where the names are made up and the cultural significance doesn't matter. So, Greece, right? Smart old guys with beards, lots of pretty islands, endless stereotypes about national debt. Yeah, it's Greece, you get it. But if you ask someone from there what their country's called, they'll say Hellas, named after Helen, since the Trojan War was the first time that Greece really acted as a semi-unified thing. Now you may be wondering, how did we get from Hellas to Greece? Those two words are as far apart from each other as possible. Blue, you sociopath. Every single letter is different except for E. Well, I'm getting there, and to solve this great linguistic conundrum, we gotta bust out some maps. So, there's this super ancient city here called Graia, right? Cool. And in the 8th century BC, they founded the colony of Cumae on the west coast of Italy. Some 500 years later, the Roman Republic started sauntering their way down the coast and ran into these people who spoke a different language, had very strong opinions about philosophy, and worshipped a unique pantheon of gods. The Romans saw these people in Cumae and said, neat. So they marked them down as originally coming from Graia, dabbled in some divine IP theft to beef up their own pantheon, and moved right along. As they went south, they ran into even more cities where the people spoke this same weird language, dished about Platonic allegories for enlightenment, and worshipped the same lovable disasters we call the Olympians. Immediately, those big-brain Romans knew what was up, for this, clearly, was another colony from Graia. Cumae? Graia. Thurii? Graia. Syracuse? Graia. This entire landmass to the east full of unique and independent city-states? What do you know? It's gotta be Graia. Now, contrary to Roman...
all the ancient, at this time obviously ancient Greece and Athenian and all those great philosophers and everybody basically looking from the sky like, you assholes, we are not from Graia.
assertions, every Hellenic city in the world was not, in fact, a colony from Graia. But whenever a city tried to politely tell the Romans that they were originally from, say, Athens or Corinth instead, the Romans said, no, we're pretty sure you're actually from Graia. Eventually, even the Romans figured out that
Romans were truly Europeans, weren't they? You're not Indians? No. You're Indians.
maybe all of these people weren't the same, but Rome didn't have a habit of admitting their mistakes, and they weren't about to start now. So they compromised and said, okay, fine. Maybe you're not all colonies from Graia, but you're close enough, so we'll add a letter and call you Graiki. Awesome. Problem solved. And that, dear viewers, is why Hellas is called Greece. Imperialism in a nutshell. Number 1. We talk a lot on this channel.
I guess the locals called it Hellas, but obviously because of Romans, now it's known as Greece, so it became Greece. I mean, the name, name is just like, what's in the name, like Shakespeare says. I mean, yeah, we know it as Greece.
Channel about conflict and wars and junk like that because spectacles and drama put butts in seats, but in some rare cases, no humans were harmed in the making of this history meme. So now we turn to the tiny European principality of Liechtenstein. Little Liechtenstein was originally one of about 80 billion microstates within the Holy Roman Empire, but managed to tuck and roll through Napoleon's pan-European Zerg rush and became an independent state in 1806. In the decades after, it was part of the German Confederation, which was dominated by Prussia and weirdly included half of Austria. Even though Prussia and Austria were rivals, it's less confusing than the HRE, I'll give it that, but oh man, only just. So in 1866, a war broke out between the two, and Liechtenstein took the opportunity to declare independence from the Confederation and total neutrality. The extremely modest 80-man army took up their post guarding an alpine pass along the border between themselves and Austria and proceeded to see exactly 0 combat encounters because their only threat was Austria, who did not care enough to even consider invading them. So the army stood guard over a stunning view of the Alps for a quiet
Somebody in Austria like, should we invent Liechtenstein? They're like, what? Liechtenstein? Is that some kind of a dish? Like, no, it's not food, it's a place. They're like, nah, I don't want to invent that. And that 80 man just standing there, just wind noise coming out and crickets in the background, like, man.
month and a half, and this is starting to sound less like a military deployment and more like summer camp. But just when it seemed like this story couldn't possibly get any more Switzerlandy than it already was for our 80 Liechtensteiner pals, they returned home with 81 men because they made a friend. Oh, this is so wholesome. Apparently, an Italian guy ran into the soldiers while they were out in the mountains and joined them on their way back because he wanted to come live in Liechtenstein. So, with one new best friend and a meme for the ages,
or maybe, one guy, I guess, died and they made 2 new friends. Yeah.
Liechtenstein said, alrighty, I think we're done here, and fully disbanded the army, proceeding to out Switzerland even the Swiss through both world wars. Well played, Liechtenstein. Well played. So, what have we learned here today?
I mean, let's be honest, that is smart. 80 men, I mean, they're not going to do shit if somebody like Austria or anybody wanted to invade. So they're like, you know what, it's 80 men anyway. Why do we need army? If somebody wants to invade us, we're already screwed. So no army.
Well, I'd say it's that 1, Dante can never catch a break.
Yeah.
2, flat earthers will ruin all of your plans to conquer India. 3, the Greece is a lie. And 4, the real history meme is, quite literally, the friends we made along the way.
There you go.
Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this.
See, this is why I love this series. It was so good, man. You should do many of these dumb, I guess, 3 dumb Italy stories that I did reaction to. I guess it's also part of this series because it's still dumb history thing. I think, he should create dumb history and then some title as a series now. Or maybe just Blues Dumb History Tales Part 3 or whatever, continue from there. This is awesome. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe, check out the lyrics and this is the link in the description, check out the cast playlist, check out the end cards, and I guess I'll see you next time.